Hey guys, you can now support this show and make your life 50% better by going to patreon.com/The System Is Down and signing up for the Downers Club, where you're going to get access to a plethora of wild, crazy, and often offensive bonus audio and video episodes of the show on a weekly basis. For more information, just go to patreon.com/The System Is Down. The following is a Goulash Media production. goulashmedia.net. Today's episode is sponsored by the 29 Toes podcast. If at any point during this episode you find yourself a little too uncomfortable and triggered, you can head over to 29toes.com and kind of decompress your brain a little bit, where they're just having casual, laid-back, fun, funny conversations about things that are going on in their lives, in the world, things in media and entertainment, all that fun stuff. So check them out at 29toes.com or wherever podcasts are sold.
Welcome to the System Is Down.
Hello, and welcome to December. It is December already. It is already the end of 2018. That is crazy. It has flown by and crawled by both at the same time. And living here in the Midwest, there's snow all over the ground, a good foot or so of it, and it's kind of disgusting. I mean, it makes for beautiful pictures and video, which is what I typically do for a living, but it does not make for good living conditions, I'll say. I still have to film weddings in this frozen tundra on the weekends, but I suppose I can't complain too much because I don't drive much of anywhere at all during the week, unlike probably you. I hope this episode finds you well on your Monday morning commute through the frozen tundra to your place of employment, and I hope that it helps you start out your week in a positive way. But what is up, Downers? Welcome back to the least comfortable show on the web, the place where we talk about all the uncomfortable topics, the things that trigger you, the things that get your panties in a wad, things like conspiracies, politics, and religion, and we do so in a civil manner. I know that's practically unheard of these days. Hopefully 2019 will turn some things around, but if you're new here, go find the person who invited you, give them a big #MeToo kiss on the mouth and a slap on the rear from me and from you, because I appreciate you being here, and I think that you're going to enjoy the conversation that I have in store for you today. Now, I always stress on this show the importance of listening to people that you disagree with. That's kind of the entire point of this show, is to have these uncomfortable conversations, because the person that you disagree with, the person who's come to a different conclusion than you, is not your enemy. We all have different upbringings, we all have different backgrounds, we all walk different paths in life. Sometimes those paths cross over, and we come to different conclusions, or we come to similar conclusions, or very much the same conclusions and change our minds later on. The possibilities are limitless, but the point is, the person that you disagree with is not your enemy. We got to listen to each other. We got to figure out what this life is together, because there's a really good chance that none of us, no matter how smart we think we are, there's a good chance that we have no frickin' clue what is and what isn't. So probably there's a good chance the whole point of life is to try and figure out what this is together. That being said, today's episode is my conversation with my cousin, Trenton Campbell, who I have had, before this episode, had not really spoken in depth to probably ever in my life. We hadn't really spoken at all in years and years and years since we were children, and I had no idea where he was in his path through life, and he didn't know where I was either. Turns out we have a whole lot of similarities and a whole lot of differences, a whole lot of things that we had issues with growing up. We had in common, but we had no idea. And I won't dig too deeply into it, rambling here at the beginning, because we really talked for a long time in this episode, and I broke it up into 2 episodes because of the length, and we even did like at least an hour of bonus content after that will be coming out next week too. So it's a really good discussion. We both come from the conservative Christian upbringing, and he's now an atheist. And so it was, this episode isn't my typical interview style. It's more just a laid back, chill, drinking some wine on both ends. We didn't plan for it, but we both ended up drinking a bottle of wine during this discussion. But it's mostly just catching up and, listening to his story, listening to why he believes the way he does now. And it was great. It was a whole lot of fun. I hope to do it again soon. If you are a member of my family, there might be some things in these episodes that you will find uncomfortable to hear, but that's what the show is. The show is about hard truths, putting it out there, being real, being raw, being honest. So if you can't handle that, then please turn the episode off right now. But to the rest of you, if you would like to support the show and if you would like to get multiple bonus episodes of the show every single week, audio and video content, go over to patreon.com/The System Is Down and sign up for as little as $5 a month, and you will get our full backlog of bonus audio and video content and everything into the future, as long as you're in there. It's a great place to chill and hang out. All the Downers in the Downers Club are super sweet and awesome, and I love them very much. And I've got some stuff planned exclusively for Downers Club members coming up for Christmas. So be a part of that. Get in there. Join the Downers Club. Patreon.com/The System Is Down. All right, let's get into this. This is my conversation with my semi-estranged cousin from birth, I suppose, from way back. Catching up, shooting the breeze, drinking some drinks, chatting some chats, talking about life. Trenton Campbell. All right, let's get weird. My guest today is somebody that I've known for probably my whole life, at least the vast majority of it. He's a member of my family, my cousin, and we had very similar upbringings, and we're going to get into some real fun memories today. So, Trenton Campbell. Trenton, how you going? How are you doing, man?
Doing very well, very well. This will be fun. I've been kind of off the grid for about a year. We've been planning on doing this for a while. So yeah, we talked about it probably about exactly a year ago, and been planning on doing it ever since. Kind of forgot about it because you left Facebook like an asshole. I did leave Facebook like an asshole indeed.
Without giving me your telephone number.
I know. You had to get it at my grandmother's funeral.
Our grandmother's funeral.
That's
yes.
true.
I wasn't just like stopping in at his grandma's funeral or anything.
Well, that would be pretty hilarious.
Yeah. So, let's just start with like your background and everything. I mean, like I said, we have kind of similar upbringings, same church, same family and all that stuff. Give kind of like your upbringing and what family life was like, and, we'll just take it from there.
So we had, like you said, we had very similar upbringings in the Open Bible Church. The biggest difference I would say is you had one sister and a brother, and I had two older sisters who were very, very similar to my parents in terms of beliefs and all sorts of things. So I honestly don't remember a whole lot from that time period of my life in terms of the Open Bible Church era.
It's kind of blocked it out.
Yeah, I don't know. I never deemed it important enough to remember, I guess. I see it as important for some people, but for me, it just never really clicked. It felt... I was too young to understand what cultish meant, but it felt cultish. Not trying
I was too.
Not trying to knock people or anything for what they believe, but this certainly wasn't for me even at that point in my life. Yeah. So after the church closed,
well, real quick, at that time, so you didn't it didn't really register with you even at that time? Yeah,
I was constantly just trying to please my parents and their beliefs. So I remember lying about speaking in tongues and just trying to conform to their belief style because they seemed so passionate and so sure that, I wanted some of that. So
yeah, for sure. Did you go to the church camp and all that too?
I did. It was something. It was
something.
It was just a bunch of fanatical young kids kind of in the same boat where half of us really were not 100% sure why they were there, and the other half were just, clones of their parents trying to be a part of this, culture.
Yeah. So which parts of like the faith and everything back then did you have take issue with, or were there specific things like like the second coming or Jesus or anything like that you were just like, not feeling it?
The kind of fear mongering that was generated out of the Open Bible Church, I didn't really get. It was actually terrifying for me at a young age. If I'm perfectly honest, just the idea of because I might have told a white lie or
thought a cuss word.
Exactly. I might wake up and not see my parents ever again.
Yeah.
It was terrifying for a young child.
And then if your parents are raptured, you have to, just wait it out, not take the mark, and eventually get your head cut off. Exactly. And then we're home free.
And that as a child is just terrifying.
Right.
I get why it's a thing. That's how, religion thrives off of either fear or hope, and the Open Bible Church was definitely more towards the fear side.
Sure.
And it's a tactic that works for them, but I think it's a horrible, horrible thing. I don't think it's good for any child to be exposed to that, because it just teaches you to almost be sheltered as a child and not experience anything that could be,
and not trust anything either. Like,
exactly.
There's if your religion is based on this like super shaky foundation where God is so freaking petty that he's just like, well, you thought a word that you guys came up with and you deemed not acceptable, so you're gonna have to burn forever. Sorry. Like, it's just such a shaky foundation that is like, what is God?
It was absurd. I remember thinking Pokemon was, if I played Pokemon, I'd go to hell. Like,
well, you probably would, but
No. But just little things like that. Like, there was just random things that were considered to be taboo, like Harry Potter,
right.
Video games,
right.
Everything. And so your hobbies pretty much consisted of watching Bible-related television, reading Bible-related books.
The Bible or the Christian movie ripoffs of other movies, and the Christian music ripoffs of good artists, really wholesome stuff.
Yeah. And if I could redo my childhood in teenage years, I would have filled it with so much more fun things, like, I don't know, going out to
drugs and prostitutes,
concerts, acid every Sunday instead of church. Of
course. That's where the spirit moves.
Exactly.
So going back to the whole like Revelation and apocalypse thought and stuff like that. I've shared the story before on the show, but for me, it was like my parents would leave and go to the store, and they would be gone for longer than they said. And I would be like freaking out. I was like, I don't know, 6 or 7. I'm freaking out that, well, maybe not that. I don't want to incriminate my parents thinking that they left me home alone at 6 or 7, probably 10. It doesn't really matter what age. If you think that's a possibility and your parents are gone longer, you're like, I would be like turning on the news being like, obviously it would be on the news, right? If something like, or I'd be calling the neighbors like, this person would have been raptured. I wouldn't be, because I thought a cuss word, maybe, I don't know. I thought crap. So I'm probably going to go to hell. Did you have any experiences like that?
I sure did. One comes to mind, and it was when my entire family went on a bike ride, and I was probably watching TV or playing with Legos or something at the time. And all of a sudden I couldn't find any of my family. I was probably 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah.
And I went to every neighbor on the block, like knocking on their door, like, hey, have you seen my parents? So obviously they're freaking out because they think something incredibly disastrous could have happened.
They assume that your parents were kidnapped or something.
Exactly. So,
they kidnapped the parents and not the child.
what a life we live. But I remember feeling complete and utter fear and shock. Like, what did I do wrong? Like, why did I get left behind? Because at our church, we'd watch these movies, the Left Behind movies, which are absolutely cheesy and horrible. But when
Thief in the Night was worse.
Thief in the Night, was that the one? I remember.
That was the like 80s one where
specifically a scene where some guy was like scratching his chest open with a shellfish.
I don't remember that.
And I just,
But I would not be surprised.
it's the most gruesome as like a 6-7-year-old, and you think this stuff is real. Like it's the worst type of fear.
Yeah, in the Thief in the Night movies, I think it's like in one of the last scenes, like this kid is going through all of these situations and trying to stay alive, and at the end, praise Jesus, she goes and gets her head cut off, and a little red balloon floats away. It's like, if this was in a movie that didn't have Jesus stamp of approval on it, like this would be a rated R movie at least. But we're showing it to like the youth at youth groups in a church.
And again, it just goes down to the fear mongering, and that kind of leads me, once the Open Bible Church closed, which was, it sucked in terms of like our whole family just kind of spread apart. So like I don't think I talked to you or your family for like,
it was a while,
years at least.
Yeah, it was a while.
Yeah, it was all through college and most of high school, so that'd be at least 7 or 8 years. So that's insane. And I started going to the Baptist church at that.
Okay. In Aledo?
Yes, in Aledo. And I would say I went about 40% of the time I said I was going. My parents were going to a church in the city, and I didn't even one. Oh, it was the New Life Fellowship, and I stopped going to that as soon as they told me Obama was the Antichrist.
Oh, dear God.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't work out.
No.
We made it through another one. Every single Democratic president's Antichrist.
Exactly. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, this guy clearly has no clue. Well, he has obviously a clue what he's talking about. He's trying to get people to agree with him so they donate money to his church.
Sure. So he was dead serious that Obama was the Antichrist.
He made it seem that way, but I have a feeling that any religious person in power who's saying something like that probably does not fully believe what they're saying.
Let's give them the benefit of the doubt and assume that they're just shysters.
Yes, exactly. He's either delusional or a sociopath trying to get power.
Right.
Way I didn't want to continue going to that church, even though wonderful donuts. So I went to the Baptist church. I actually skipped most of the time because I would go hang out with friends and play video games and socialize, which was probably more important, to be honest.
Sure.
I feel like if I wouldn't have had that sort of rebellious phase in high school, I probably would be equally as fanatical as my sisters still are, which they're happy. More power to them. But Baptist church, it wasn't nearly as fanatical, but they still, the idea of praise and worship to me still makes me uncomfortable. Because I honestly just don't believe in a God. So I think it's great for people who do, but my gosh, does it feel awkward for anyone?
Sure. Yeah, I totally understand. And I had a phase not that long ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, where whenever we were living in Ohio, I guess it's probably longer than that, but I mean, I was at the very least agnostic, and I was like, what are we doing? Like, what the hell are we doing? Like, if you even think that there's a possibility that there's no God and you show up to a worship service, like there's nobody in the world that you go out and sing praises and songs to. But if you think that there's any possibility that God's not real, the whole thing just seems extremely silly.
It falls apart real quick, and it has that kind of feedback loop where it just continuously reinforces the fact that you think this is completely bizarre.
Sure. So are you now to the point where, are you atheist or are you agnostic, or where do you fall on that spectrum?
Well, if you look up the textbook definition of an atheist, I'd say I'm that. Unfortunately, atheism anymore. I'd like to make a clear statement that I'm not a dogmatic atheist. You're
not a dick?
Yeah, I'm not a dick. Like I believe in.
I thought that was a requirement.
Yeah, I believe that people should be able to believe whatever the fuck they want. Like, if you want to pray to a spaghetti monster from Pluto. You do you.
Right.
I'm here to live my own life, and I try not to interfere on others' beliefs. Very libertarian kind of mindset, I guess.
Sure. Well, the last time we spoke, you were not libertarian, and I was arguing some libertarian stuff, so maybe we'll get into that later.
Oh, yes. I political identity has been a struggle over the past 2 years, I'd say. Just
Sure.
I've explored communism, I've explored libertarianism, I've explored anarchism, I've explored every
Nice.
end of the spectrum.
Sounds like we've got some bonus content. Let's stick to religion for now, though.
Fair enough.
Cool. So was there like a turning point for you, or did it just kind of fizzle out where you're just like, I don't need this. Why am I doing this?
No, it was my sophomore year of college, the summer before my sophomore year of college. I was riding to the Quad Cities with a good friend of mine, Bailey Christick, and Samuel Wan. And I remember her distinctly saying, yeah, I just don't really believe in God anymore. And I was like, me neither. I'd never really voiced it before because
Right.
if I did, I felt like my whole family would come crashing down.
Yeah.
Like dominoes. But luckily they never did. But I think that was the absolute moment where I'm like, yeah, if someone else can admit it, why should I be afraid to?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, as you would think as a Christian family, they would at least want you to be honest about it. So, I mean, if they think that prayer works, then they can, direct it in the right way, whatever. So, how was the backlash? Like, was there any backlash, or, I mean, would you agree that our family's kind of avoiders of conflict to a certain extent?
Yeah, our families are absolutely avoiders of conflict. In terms of, I told my mother, I was probably drunk one night and just chit-chatting with her. And
Did she know that you were drunk?
Yes, she knows.
Okay. Okay.
And she, I want to say, was hurt by it, but I want to say also that ever since I came out as an atheist to my mother, she's been extremely open-minded as a Christian.
Sure.
Like, I feel like it's almost changed her viewpoint as if someone she loves can be an atheist, then
Right.
she can be more open-minded about everything.
It's not like God's not dead, where the atheists are the evil villains who are trying to sway everybody's opinion. It's also similar to like, dogmatic people being super hardcore anti-homosexuality and stuff like that until they have a gay son. And then they're like, oh, well, maybe I got to rethink some things here.
Exactly. As soon as it hits close to home, they either get extremely resentful and bitter, or they kind of change their mindset, which
Right.
most of the time I feel like they change their mindset, but there are a few occasions.
Mm-hmm.
Like I never really outright discussed it with our grandparents. I feel like they would have.
No need.
You know what I mean? And I'm perfectly fine with anyone still thinking I'm a Christian if that's what they feel comfortable.
Sure. I mean, atheists are liars and fakes anyway, so you might as well play it up.
It was funny though, because the past few weeks, our cousin Michael, when we were all at our grandparents' house, he knows I'm an atheist because I'm sure my mom has mentioned something to him.
Sure.
Kept dropping like hints that he wanted to discuss it. And so I'm like, okay, let's discuss it. And we go downstairs, and I've never in my life been in an argument situation, because I try to argue very rationally, give the devil his due on every point, concede the people's arguments for the sake of moving the argument along. But
except for when you're really drunk and in Marxist mindset, then that was a different situation.
That doesn't count. I was fully sober during this argument.
Okay.
And I will concede that Marxism is very wrong and fucked up, but we'll continue that conversation.
Human progress. All right.
We will continue that argument discussion after this. But he just he brought something out of me, and I had to apologize because he made me legitimately angry because he started off the arguments just yelling.
Really?
Yeah, just going off on tangents, not letting me speak. And that, for lack of a better word, triggered me to do the same exact thing.
Yeah.
And it got us absolutely nowhere.
Right.
And
Well, it's a lack of respect. If you're not going to listen to why I think the way I do, then why would I listen to you on why I should think the way that you do? Who gives a shit?
exactly. And I expressed that to him, and his argument is, I'm going to go to hell if I don't believe this. So
Right.
He's going to dogmatically try to change my viewpoint. And I don't think he realizes that only makes me resentful towards any.
Right. That's the reason why you're not into this.
Exactly.
But you can kind of see why he would be passionate about it. And I've always said this, like, you got to at least give him credit for, having those convictions to being like, hey, you're going to go to hell. Hey, listen to me. And that's like the biggest issue that I have with Christians who believe that non-Christians are, destined for hell or whatever. If you absolutely believe that and you're just wandering through your life, like not telling anybody, then you're kind of a piece of shit.
Exactly. If you think your family's going to burn for eternity in hell because they don't believe in your God, then be an asshole not to try to convert them. So for reflection, like, I get it. He cares, he loves, but it still left a very bad taste in my mouth. And
for sure.
I just have never felt that way in an argument, because most people that I encounter, or at least surround myself with, will let you at least speak your point of view.
Right.
That was not the case.
All right, shut up about your point of view. Anyway, I'm not bashing on him at all. I've never had like an in-depth conversation with him, even because our family doesn't talk all that much. We're not the greatest communicators, but he's always been somebody who's very he tempers his reactions to everything. Like, he's very mild-mannered, very cool. I imagine so. You saying that he freaked out caught me off guard, so that's interesting. Anyway, I was going somewhere with that, but if you have more, continue.
No, that's pretty much the extent of it. He sent me a DVD called, I forget, it's a coaster now. Something about Genesis being real. I actually watched 20 minutes of it, and it talked about how the Great Flood carved the Great Canyons and all this wonderful.
What frustrates me in that type of thing, and somebody like that, not just him, but anybody who's like, no, clearly you haven't just heard this in the right way. Clearly, I'm giving you new information that you just haven't heard. It's like, the family, he's in your family. He knows what you grew up with. I mean, he wasn't a local family member, so he might not know exactly how the church was running and how the family structure was, but he has to know that you know all these things. You've heard all these things. It's not like you just had your memory wiped when you turned 18 or something.
I was going to say, that was literally what we studied for 16, 17 years of my life. So
Sunday morning service, Sunday night service, Tuesday night youth group, sometimes Monday night kids club, and Wednesday night Bible study. It's like 70% of the week was church of some sort. I've heard it. Okay.
Every bit of it. So yeah, I think that was really maybe the biggest misunderstanding. Maybe he thought, because he said he went through all this and went in his mid-20s. Well, I'm 25. So what's going through his is I'm going to help him figure out the things that I figured out. Which, again, more power to him. I think he should just be a little less dogmatic about it.
Right. Especially, like, he should be able to understand in a way that's like, you need to work through this on your own, not with like the backhand. Because that's about when I went through the same shit. So
exactly. So yeah, over the past few years, I've read a lot, thought a lot. I'd say in terms of religion, I'm still about the same place as I was last time we spoke.
Sure.
Nothing's really changed. I haven't really explored much more of it. Again, I've been going after politics and hobbies and work.
Yeah, that's life.
Yep.
Have you like explored any other faiths or religions or anything like that? Have you dug around or just been like, nope, done, bye-bye?
I think there's some extremely interesting theories about what life is and how we exist. I actually just watched the notorious podcast of Joe Rogan and Elon Musk, where
Gasp.
All
I know about that episode is that Elon Musk smoked weed, and that nobody cares about the rest of the actual conversation.
The 3-hour
took a puff. Right.
I think intelligence is a spectrum, but you can learn something from every human being you interact with. But Elon Musk, you can learn a lot from. And he brought up this theory that was really interesting, where there's one of three things going on right now with what life is.
Yeah.
Option number one is we are humanity and we're on our way to destroying ourselves. Option number two, we are humanity and we're on our way to making virtual reality so incredible that
The Matrix.
Indistinct from real life.
Sure.
And option three, which he deemed the most probable option, is that we're actually in virtual reality, indistinct from human life.
Sure.
I think that's a insanely interesting thing to contemplate. In comparison to religion, I just would rather think about things like that because they seem so much more probable and less focused on the creation side of it.
Sure.
And more focused on what we are and what could be.
Yeah. I always enjoy digging into the hypotheticals on the simulation theory. I think it's very compelling. And actually, we dug into that. This will be coming out 2 weeks from now. So last week's episode, we talked about transhumanism and cyborgs and all that stuff in the future. But I personally think that the whole simulation theory thing, it's not that far off base from some religions. Like I wake up in the morning and I'm like, what are the odds of me? What are the odds of me existing? Like, this can't be all that is. It seems like maybe reincarnation or an afterlife or simulation theory. Like, what are the odds that I existed and I'm doing this thing? Like, I could have so easily not been. I know that's a strange way to put it, but it's like the whole thing is either a miracle or it's just been on a loop. And I feel like there's a whole lot that we don't know.
One thing that digs at the idea of religion and reincarnation to me is once technology advances far enough and we do one of two things, make it so we ourselves can be uploaded into a computer basically and never die. Like our consciousness could be uploaded into any artificial body and we never die. How does that work with reincarnation? I mean, a lot of people believe that there's more to us than this. The idea of
I think that if, like, you believe in reincarnation, that whole thing is just like a setback. If you're trying to reach some sort of enlightenment and you keep looping your life in a different life over and over again, then all you're doing is hitting the pause button because you have to stay in that one life and you can't reach maybe you could reach the enlightenment in your endless life, but I don't know. It's weird.
That's not a bad theory, I suppose, thinking about it that way. I think you're right. I will concede that there is sides of religion that are really interesting to think about, and especially if you tie them into technology and future. Yeah. Come up with some pretty wild ideas and pretty wild things to think about.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Dan Smots here. I'm taking a second to interrupt myself talking to talk about myself because, I don't get paid a penny for the hours and hours that I put into creating this show for you guys in your greedy little ears, and I've got a family to feed. To make that happen, I run my own media business called Goulash Media. If you have a need in anything from video production to graphic design to audio production and beyond, you can get it all for a painfully fair price at Goulash Media. In video, I do weddings, music videos, commercials, pageants, plays, etc., etc., etc. For design, I do photo editing, album art, logos, branding, business cards, merchandise, you name it. For audio, I do engineering, production, editing, jingles, and, podcasts. So if you've got a media need of any kind, or if you'd just like to give a little something back and help keep my children fed, check out all the endless options at my website, goulashmedia.net. That's goulash, Goulash, media.net, where we cater to the little guy with the big vision. Okay. So do you believe in like after death? Do you believe in any sort of thing? Do you think that like if it is a simulation, then who knows what is after death because we're in a simulation? But do you have any thoughts or beliefs on that, or is it just lights out?
Well, let me preface this with the sheer fact that I know so little. So I'm always open to one, being wrong, and two, being proven wrong, because I know so little. But as of now, like if I were to think what the hell's going to happen if I die right now, I feel like I would just decompose.
Sure.
Die.
So no souls?
No souls, no nothing, just carbon-based life turning into dust.
How sad.
It is depressing, but I will say the plus side of it is it makes me appreciate what I do have. It makes me appreciate the life that I have.
Sure.
And I feel like with my mindset, I am most apt out of anyone to make the most out of my life. So if I believe that this is a finite amount of time and I won't be reincarnated, I'm going to really focus on, bettering myself and enjoying my life and not being a prude to new experiences. And
well, there might be a justification for enjoying your life, but is there really a justification for bettering yourself?
not necessarily. I mean, for me personally, there is. I've always been focused on, well, not always, but since, let's say, college, I've been really focused on bettering myself, and I've attributed it to that. But maybe as a whole, my argument might not hold that much water, because if you believe in reincarnation and you believe that, say, karma will have an effect on your next life,
yep,
then I guess you would focus probably more on bettering yourself than, say, someone like me.
Sure. Does it matter? I mean, this gets into the annoying question that, of course, every atheist gets, and I'm sure you've probably gotten it in your time. But morality, where do you draw those lines, and what's the point?
So I read a very interesting book by Sam Harris. I can't remember the name. Oh, it's called The Moral Landscape. Because I had that same question, and he's an atheist, and he wanted to dive into the question of where do we get morality as an atheist? Because that's always been the troubling question that every religious person is an atheist. And he believes that religion was a natural step, and I'm paraphrasing, and I read this book about 7 months ago, so I could get something wrong. But
you could say anything and I'd believe you, so just go right ahead.
The basis of his argument is that religion was a natural step in the evolution of morality. But as a species now, we can kind of derive what is right and what is wrong based off of what is best for a balance between people as a whole and a balance of what is best for ourselves. So if you go around murdering your fellow man for only the sake of yourself and you're hurting your society, survival of the fittest would deem that to be morally wrong because you're hurting the potential survival of your species.
Interesting.
So if you go around raping people, obviously rape has a major problem with the psychological effect. If someone gets raped, they're less apt to, go on and live a successful life because
procreate.
They have so
less
much,
likely to further the species,
exactly,
or even function within the species. That's
the argument I would pose for that. It's something I've thought a lot about. I feel like morality can be driven from science. I feel like every moral conundrum can be decided based off of what's a balance between what's better for yourself and what's better for your species as a whole, or your community, or your family.
It's very interesting. I've actually never heard anybody make that case, and I've heard atheists that I love, like Penn Jillette, make kind of a case, but never anything He probably has made a similar case, but I've never heard him weigh in to that extent. That's very interesting, where it could be still survival of the fittest, just the fittest is humankind, and we need humankind to flourish.
Yeah, if you think about the worst possible life. So let's say you're a 6-year-old child in a African tribe who's already seen their parents get murdered through a blood feud. You've been raped as a child and you've gotten an arm chopped off already and you've contracted AIDS.
Way to bring it down a notch.
A very immoral place, right? The worst possible life you could ever live. You're not going to live very long. Versus let's think of a really great life. Someone who inherited a lot of money, but also invested that money extremely wisely. They have an amazing family. They have access to great medical care. They have all this stuff. They have great community around them. They have great friends, great family. They're probably going to live much, much, much longer. So I think you get access to that sort of lifestyle by living in a very moral community and moral country.
Sure. Interesting. And that raises a question that's kind of off topic, but kind of not. And who knows where this could go. But what do you think about abortion? Because, I mean, as far as moral or immoral for the furthering of the species, it seems like let it go.
So as I've slowly drifted more libertarian, I would say the government should stay out of it. But I do think abortion is morally wrong.
Okay.
And I've bounced between the argument.
Same.
Simply because if the government has one role, it's to protect life, right?
Right.
So I could absolutely see the argument that is life inside someone. So I'd say right now, I'm begrudgingly pro-choice. But
okay.
I would say I'm smack dab in the middle just because I don't flip and know where.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I've been on both sides, and right now I had on Abby Johnson. She was a former Planned Parenthood director who has this crazy story of how she became pro-life, and I mean, I was kind of like on the fence, like, well, you know, viability and this and that, all the talking points. And now I'm just like, you know what, why not just err on the side? Since we have so many variables, so many gray areas, I'm just going to err on the side of let's not do this. I mean, we've got so much technology. It seems like we could find a great way to keep people from getting pregnant if we really wanted to. And we don't have this problem anymore. It's a business, and that they're in it to make money. So, yeah, I just say err on the side of, you know, not killing anything. But
that's valid. And I feel like if you asked me this tomorrow, I might be begrudgingly pro-life. Like, that's how on the fence I am, because there are very valid arguments on both sides.
Yeah, and I've had several people, like 4 or 5 people, tell me after that episode that they went from pro-choice to pro-life. So I'd recommend you check it out. It's very interesting.
I absolutely will.
Cool.
There's a lot of great arguments to that. What I can't stand is when people will draw a line in the sand based off of what their political party believes on issues.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Have a fucking opinion. Like,
right.
Think about it, you know?
Or they'll draw a political line in the sand based on one thing. I always find it hilarious that every single president has to claim that they're a Christian. Every single Republican president has to claim that they're pro-choice, but still abortion's legal. Like, we can all say, or they all have to claim that they're pro-life. Sorry. Yeah. But still, we can vote just on one issue, like pro-life, but nobody's changed it. We've had several pro-life candidates. It's still a thing. So why don't we just focus on the bigger picture of limiting government, and we can take it from there?
Yes.
We're talking about religion. Why are we getting into politics? Stop it.
Back into libertarianism. Yeah, I wish I knew more about religion. Again, I've studied the atheistic side of religious questions.
Sure.
But in terms of studying anything besides Christianity, I never have.
Right.
I think the big three religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, all have severe problems with them that steer me away from religion as a whole.
Well, they all have the same foundation, which is humanity, which is the worst foundation that you can have in something.
They're the three dogmatic, like we need to convert, we need to fight.
Right.
We need to spread our message to everyone, otherwise everyone will go to hell and we will go to hell.
Right. Do you ever have any thoughts of, what if I'm wrong?
Oh, yes, all the time. I see that more as an argument fallacy, though. I guess
Sure.
I used to believe that as an argument fallacy. Because,
Yeah, I'm not posing it as an argument. I mean, I even think the same thing, and based on my upbringing, I don't believe nearly as dogmatically, and I still have thoughts of, hey, what if I'm wrong? And well, I mean, for me, it comes down to, well, is God more merciful or less merciful than I am? Because he made this brain.
The Christian God could never exist to me. There's too many problems with the Bible. It's very clearly a push for power written by humans, like to control a population, to me. I could never believe in a God that's word for word from the Bible, because he just seems like a pretentious asshole who doesn't hold himself to the same standards that he holds humanity to.
Sure.
I brought up the argument maybe to you before, but in Exodus, when God hardens Pharaoh's heart and then proceeds to allow children.
What's that shit about?
Yeah, he proceeds to allow children to be killed.
Right.
That's outright murder.
He didn't allow it. He ordered it.
Exactly. That's outright murder. How come he can be less moral than his immoral creation?
Seems a lot worse than abortion to me, but I could be wrong.
And to me, I can't believe in a God that would kill and murder and, make bets with Satan on Job's life. And
it's just a game. It's a game. Yeah, I totally agree. And I've had all these same quandaries, and it's just, I mean, for me, I came to the conclusion that there's a whole lot of shit that we don't understand. Probably all of it, if not at least the vast majority of it. Like, there's a really good chance all of us, with all of our different religions and different denominations, different this and that, we're probably all completely way off on what actually is. And, I think that there has to be something that made us personally. And I think that me existing seems like too much of a miracle to discredit a creator of some sort. And just so you know, I'm not trying to like witness to you here. I'm just, just telling you. Yeah. But I totally get where you'd be like, just fuck it all. But yeah, it's hard for me to not say something's going on here that we don't understand, be it a God, a creator, or maybe we're in some sort of, Matrix type dimension or something. I don't know. I find it all fascinating, but it's easiest probably just based on my upbringing to believe that, there's a God of some sort. But, and you say that the Christian God, you could never, you could never believe in that douchebag, but I would say that it kind of depends on how you interpret that type of stuff. I feel like a lot of the things that, God was supposedly telling the people in the Bible, this Bible was written by humans. Even if you think it's divinely inspired, it was written down by humans, and it was interpreted. The words were interpreted by humans. They're like, well, I feel like I'm supposed to kill those people over there. I feel like I'm supposed to go to war. God told me to do it. Let's write it down. And I don't feel like that means that God did anything.
And my one problem with Christianity is when people can't admit that, is when they can't admit that a portion of the Bible could have been wrong based off of the people who wrote it. The idea of religion as a whole, what if I'm wrong? So there's a few questions to dive into with that. So what if I'm wrong and the Christian God is real? Like you said, men interpreted it. Mm-hmm. And either that God is a merciful, loving God, and I would still be okay because I'm not a piece of shit human.
Well, debatable.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'd say, relatively speaking, I'm not a
Sure.
and I would be okay. Or the Christian God is exactly what the Bible says it is, and he's an asshole. And
Sure.
then I want to say I would still defiantly not trust him. Just to me, God's from the Bible sounds like a combination of Hitler, Stalin, and Kim Jong-un. Like heaven, based off of what we thought it was as a child, seems like a worse off North Korea, where you're forced to pray to and sing praises to this individual. You can't leave. You're stuck there forever. Like,
Sure.
That sounds like the most horrible eternal thing ever to be a part of.
Sure.
If I'm wrong, I'm banking on God is merciful. We are his creation. Why would he try to punish his creation?
Sure.
If you built an amazing piece of music or architecture or a painting, the average idea of morality, you aren't going to destroy that. Like, you are proud of your creation. You're going to help your creation. So if we are created, I believe in a good creator.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have to agree. So, I mean, what if there is this asshole God who created us? If he is a combination of Hitler and Stalin and Mao and Kim Jong-un, and we're gonna have to go up and seek Heil to God someday. Does that? I mean, how you feel about that doesn't change anything. It doesn't change how I feel. I mean, how I feel doesn't change what is either.
If that was the case, I would still say fuck him. Like, if I knew it was. If I knew that level of God existed and he causes all the wars and the cancer and the hatred in this world, then I don't care how bad the punishment is, I wouldn't follow that.
Sure. All right.
That's where I stand.
Cool. Well, so we mentioned at the top of the hour that our grandma passed away recently, who was the grandma on the religious side for me. I don't know what your other side is like, but one side is who cares about any of this stuff, and my other side is the side that ties us together. So our grandma died, and for me, after having all these different thoughts of, biblical inerrancy, atheism, agnosticism, going through all these like roller coasters of thoughts over the years since the church was a thing, the Open Bible Church, and since my dad preaching there and all that, having my dad up on stage preaching again was a little bit strange and reminiscent. How did that make you feel? And them talking about like all the we know how this is stuff again.
The entire thing felt like a dream, almost like a weird sense of nostalgia, because it was very sad, like seeing our grandfather cry when he was doing the opening prayer, like that.
Somebody who I've never seen have an emotion other than nothing or angry in his life.
I almost cried there on the spot. Definitely
that was tough.
And then the weird sense of nostalgia with the singing hymns and your father preaching again. It was, I felt very nostalgic, but very uncomfortable, I would say.
That's the Lord speaking to you, brother.
Yeah, exactly. But it's something, I love being in situations like that, because it makes you, it's like, okay, why do I feel this way?
Absolutely.
Obviously, I just feel a real strong connection with the family, but you almost are happy for the people that believe that grandma's in a better place. Like, if grandpa didn't believe that, I would be so much sadder. I would be so much more heartbroken. But the fact that he thinks that he's going to pass away and see his wife of 60 plus years is beautiful to me.
Right.
So while I felt uncomfortable, I was still really happy for the family, because it did help them cope. with that.
Right. And when you get to when you're in a position like that, do you hope they're right? Do you hope that she's not just rotting away and
yeah,
we'll all see her again?
I want Grandpa to see her again, because that was his entire life. Like, for the sake of that argument, gosh, I hope I'm wrong. I hope they're gonna see each other again. I believe that? No, but
sure.
In the heat of the moment, you're sitting there.
No, say that slowly. Do I believe that Grandpa's gonna see Grandma again? No, she's dirt.
And that's the weird thing. I feel like I was the saddest person there. Like,
we're not a family of emotions.
Yeah. But deep down, I'm like, she's literally just dead. And that was going through my mind the whole time. Where everyone else is like, I get to see my mother again or my grandma again.
Yeah.
When I pass away.
Yeah.
Very strange feeling. Very.
For sure. Even for me, some of that is still strange for me. Like, I think there's probably a heaven. I think there's going to be a whole lot more people in there if it exists than I was taught to believe. But I think that, I don't know, just the speaking in definitives, I always have a problem with, be it atheists, Christians, Jews, whatever. Yeah. Speaking in definitive, saying, well, this is how things are. I've never seen it, but I've read a book. Is that this is how things work, and so we're going to see her again. I'm like, maybe. I hope. I have no idea. Maybe. I tend to believe it, but do I know it? Absolutely not.
Yeah, and me saying she's dirt again, I don't. But that's what was going through my head at the time. Like,
yeah, she's
dead. I'm really glad Grandpa doesn't believe that, because this would be a whole lot shittier for the entire family.
Sure. So does that make you more emotional? Just thinking that, like you said, you thought you were the saddest person there. Do you think that the absence of anything else makes you feel more emotional because it's just a loss of a human?
Yeah, it just made me contemplate death more than I ever have in my entire life, because I've never had a tragic death in my life other than a few great uncles, a few great grandmothers. Right.
Same for us. Never anybody close except for Kayla's grandpa, who I was actually closer to than our grandma. But it's strange when it finally happens, and hers was just so out of nowhere that it was just like, 1 minute she's there, we were there. Well, Kayla was there like 3 days before. Everything seemed fine. Then it's like, hey, Grandma's not doing great. Grandma's dead. Okay, like it reminds you of like how fragile all this nonsense is.
Yeah, all the work I put towards, bettering myself and working towards my career and all that stuff, you contemplate, is all that worth it?
Right.
Lots of strange thoughts I never thought I'd feel.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of mortality and morality and what I should be believing. Because there is this sort of beautiful bliss that everyone experienced at the funeral, like everything's going to be okay because we believe this.
Right.
And I think that's why religion's so popular, because you can.
It's hope.
Exactly.
It's hope.
There's the fear side your whole life, but then there's the hope after death.
Mm-hmm. That all that fear was worth it.
Exactly.
Your life sucked, but your afterlife will be great, and that's much longer. All right, well, let's take a break here real quick. I got to go pick up my kids from school, but on that cheery note, we'll be right back. Hey guys, thanks for sticking around to the end. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Trenton as much as I did. And again, this is the first half of the conversation. Well, the first third of the conversation, really, if you include the bonus content, because we talked for at least 3 hours. Catching up, having a good time, chatting about all the things. The next one gets into some deeper and different tangents, and the conversation just went where it went. So definitely stick around and stay tuned for that next Monday morning, first thing. And if you want to, go subscribe to the show on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you subscribe to your podcast, that'll keep you from missing next week's episode. and it will also keep you from missing the Anti-News, which is the second show in our podcast feed, where Craig and I cover all the current events, all the headlines and topics in the news, and we mostly just poke fun at them. We break them down in a dark comedic fashion and just have a great time with it. And I believe either this week or next week, I think Trenton is going to be joining us as a guest host of the Anti-News. So that should be a whole lot of fun, because he seems to have a similar sense of humor, similar style to Craig and I. So that's going to be fun. Check it out. Antinewslive.com is where you can get the regular updates and watch the video episodes. Also, if you enjoyed the show, if you listen to it often and would like to support it, you can do so with money at patreon.com/thesystemIsDown. And not only will you be helping the show thrive and survive, you will also get weekly bonus audio and video content every single week. That's right. For as little as $5 a month, less than a cup of coffee, almost nothing. You will not notice that $5 comes out every month. You probably lose $5 a month. You definitely waste $5 a month. So why not spend $5 a month on some good quality entertainment? So go check that out at patreon.com/thesystemIsDown. And I also have some things that I'm working on, some plans, some Christmas plans for members of the Downers Club, some really fun exclusive content for them. All right. So please, as you're going through your week, please go like, share, and subscribe. All the Twitters, the Facebooks, the YouTubes, and everything that millennials just love to obsess over. Do not, please, for the love of God, do not go, if you're not on these platforms, do not go sign up for them in order to like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy your freedom while it lasts. But if you're already there, and you probably already are, then just go click a button. That's all I'm asking. But guys, please continue to share the show. I appreciate it very much. And please continue to keep having these uncomfortable conversations. Keep changing the world one uncomfortable conversation at a time. Let's finish 2018 in such a major way that 2019 doesn't even stand a chance. Let's be civil. Let's civilly discuss these big, uncomfortable issues and hear each other out and be humans to each other. That's the only way 2019 is going to suck less than 2018 did. So, fingers crossed. All right, guys. Thank you again so much for tuning in. I appreciate every one of you very, very much. Even those of you who listen for free, you're helping boost the numbers and helping make this show grow every week, and I appreciate you. I love you. I love you so much. But if you'll have me, of course, I will be back here first thing next Monday morning with some uncomfortable conversations for your ears. Until then, ladies, gentlemen, everything in between, question everything, and stay uncomfortable. Thanks. This has been a Goulash Media production. goulashmedia.net.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.